Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sarah, and I will be our MC for this webinar. And thanks for our usual crowd. Thanks for joining us a little bit of a different time. We're happy to be able to do this at 12 noon so that we could have Dr. Shiffman here with us this afternoon. Like I mentioned, we're joined by Dr. David Shiffman. He is an interdisciplinary conservation biologist who studies endangered species of sharks and how to protect them. So if this is your first time tuning in with us, we are the Maui Nui Marine Resource Council, and we are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit working based on the island of Maui, of course, but within the county of Maui, which includes Maui, Molokai, and Lanai, we are working for clean ocean water, healthy reefs, and abundant native fish. And so our approach to do this is Mauka to Makai, or from the mountains to the ocean. And that I think we all know that, what happens on land will inevitably impact what goes on in the water. And so we work on land as well as in the sea throughout the year. So we have a whole group of programs that we do. I'm not going to go into detail here, but top of mind things that we do, we test water quality at 41 locations across Maui, including some in the burn zone. If you guys remember that catastrophic wildfire that tore through Lahaina 2 years ago, we are also testing in that area. Where we've launched a new community-based coral reef restoration initiative. We just established a site in South Maui earlier this year. And then going back to that land-based work that we do, that little upper left-hand photo, we also have a reef-friendly landscaping program, which we train land managers, resorts, communities, associations on how to incorporate healthier practices that are better for land and for the ocean. And so all of these things together combined make up some the work that we do to protect our natural resources. And like I just mentioned, our community support is very critical. We work often with community partners and community members themselves, and we would like to thank the County of Maui for partnering with one of our partners in, well, not tonight, but this afternoon's presentation. So if anybody from the county is here, mahalo nui for your support. As a quick note, if you're new, we do have a monthly e-newsletter that goes out. We like to call it the Reef and Brief. We think it's pretty clever. And we send out updates about talks just like this and different projects and work that is happening in the island. So if you're interested in learning more about that or just want to be notified of the next talk, we're going to drop that link in the chat for you guys so you can go ahead and get signed up. And then just a few notes before I introduce Dr. Shiffman. We will have time at the end of the presentation to answer your questions. So throughout his presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen and you can submit your questions there. And then once Dr. Shiffman is done, we'll go ahead, I'll read out the questions out loud and he can go ahead and answer them. And that's how we'll handle that. And then of course, if you'd like to share this, review it, or have to jump off midway, we will be posting this on our YouTube channel later. It's also on Facebook Live. You can just head over to Facebook later to watch it. And we will send it out to our mailing list. So another plug to join that. Perfect. And so now for our speaker, we're so pleased to be able to host Dr. David Shiffman all the way from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for being here with us. Dr. Shiffman is based in Washington, D.C., where he studies endangered species of sharks and how to protect them. His more than 70 peer-reviewed scientific journal articles have been cited over 2,500 times, and his public-facing writing has appeared in National Geographic, The Washington Post, nationally syndicated op-eds, and a monthly column in SCUBA Diving Magazine. It's pretty intimidating. I'm really looking forward to hearing what Dr. Shiffman has to say. So mahalo, Dr. Shiffman, for being here with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Sarah, for that introduction, and hello, everybody. It is evening here in DC, so for those of you in Hawaii, if I say tonight, I apologize. Sarah, are you successfully seeing slides here?
Yes,
Wonderful, we did it.
perfect.
All right. It is a pleasure to talk with you tonight about shark science and shark conservation. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about comes from my book, Why Sharks Matter. No, I have done talks like this all over the world. And usually when I'm there in person, I have copies of the book that I can sell and sign for you. But since we're doing this virtually, that's not an option. If anyone does have a copy already or wishes to get one from your favorite local bookstore, just send me an email and we can send you a signed book plate, which is a sticker that goes in front. So, as Sarah mentioned, I am an interdisciplinary marine conservation biologist based in Washington, D.C. Let me explain a little bit about what that means, because it'll tell a little bit about my story. A marine conservation biologist is a little different from a traditional marine biologist that you might be more familiar with. It means I don't just study where do fish go, what do fish do, things like that. But explicitly, we're trying to use science to understand the threats to these animals and the most effective policy solutions to solve them using data and evidence. And interdisciplinary means I don't just look at the fish, I look at the human side. Because after all, when we pass new laws to protect fish, they don't actually tell the fish what to do, they tell people what to do. So we need to understand the human side of this. So that means sometimes I am out on a boat doing shark research. It means sometimes I'm speaking in schools or doing public outreach like this. I do a lot of media outreach, as Sarah mentioned, and I'm also one of the most followed scientists in the world on social media and invite you to follow me there at Why Sharks Matter. So I have loved sharks for a really long time. I am th 3 years old in the pictures on the left. My mom assures me she has pictures of me younger than that, but we haven't been able to find them. Tonight, I want to tell you a little bit about why sharks have held my fascination for so long and some of the things that I've learned in a career studying them and a lifetime of being obsessed with them. And at the end of the talk, I am happy to answer any questions that you have about any of this, anything you want to know about marine biology or ocean conservation or sharks or me. I do an Ask Me Anything on social media every week, which means that it's very unlikely that the weirdest question you can think of is the weirdest question I've ever been asked. So please don't hesitate, ask me anything at all, but I ask that you please hold to the end, and we'll use the Q&A feature within the Zoom webinar, I believe. So one thing that I want everyone to know about sharks is sharks are absolutely amazing, wondrous creatures. They come in just about every shape, size, and color that you can imagine and are found in a wide diversity of habitats. Lots of people only picture the great white shark, or real nerds might be able to name 15 or 20 species. There are 536 known species of sharks, and there's a new species of shark, skate, ray, or chimera discovered somewhere in the world about every 2 weeks. Some are found in the deepest part of the ocean where sunlight never reaches. Some are found under Arctic ice. Some are found pretty far into fresh water. U.S. Navy SEALs have a saying that if you want to know if there are sharks in the water near you, you dip your finger in the water and you taste it. And if it's salty, that means you are in the ocean and there are probably sharks near you. And that's true, but it's limited because, again, some live in freshwater, and not just bull sharks can do that. Here are some of my favorite weird and wonderful species that illustrates some of the breadth of this amazing group of animals. In the lower right here, that's an American pocket shark. It is called a pocket shark, not because it's small enough to fit in your pocket, though it is. It's called that because it has this weird pocket of flesh behind its eye that is full of glow-in-the-dark liquid that it can squirt on command to scare away predators. In the lower left, that is a megamouth shark. These were actually discovered in Hawaii by a U.S. Navy vessel when they hit one with their anchor in the 1970s. If that anchor chain had been developed or dropped 20 seconds earlier or 20 seconds later, it would have been another 15 years before scientists knew that these deep sea weirdos even existed. One of the things that I love about megamouths is their crazy scientific name. If you think back to your high school life science class, you learn about scientific names for all these animals, and you maybe never stop to think about what they mean. Most of them translate to things like the brown bird with the gray spot on its head, which is descriptive, if not necessarily that interesting. This is Megacosmopelagios, the giant mouth of the deep. By science standards, that's poetry. In the center, that is an angular rough shark, a deep sea Mediterranean species. And most people, when they think about sharks, they think of them as being fast, powerful, sleek, athletic. The angular rough shark is the opposite of that. Picture an overinflated football with a comically large dorsal fin on top, and you're well on your way. That's a frilled shark in the top center. They move very differently from other sharks. It almost looks like a snake or an eel. And these animals, of course, also have absolutely amazing behaviors. In the lower right, that's a goblin shark, another deep sea weirdo, and lots of animals can hyperextend their face. Shark or snakes famously do this, but nothing does it as fast or as far as a goblin shark. That video is slowed down 100 times. In the raw video, there's a fish in front of its face, and then there is not. In the upper right, that video is not slowed down. That is the cruising speed of the adult Greenland shark, which is the slowest swimming large vertebrate in the ocean. But they're in no particular rush, since they are also the longest lived vertebrate on Earth. They can live to be over 400 years old. They also eat polar bears and reindeer. In the upper left, that is a thresher shark. They have tails that can be as long as the rest of their body, and no one really knew what they used that for until this video was taken by a scuba diver about 10 years ago, and we now know they use it as a whip. It makes a shock wave underwater that stuns small fish that they can eat. That hammerhead in the lower left is using its cephalofoil, the hammerhead, for one of its main purposes, which is to pin flat prey down to the surface where they can then be munched on. The stingray is stinging it in the face, but it does not stop them. I once saw a hammerhead that had more than 60 stingray barbs in its face, and it was still hunting stingrays. On the left side, that shows a kite fin shark, which is the largest of the species of sharks whose whole bodies can glow in the dark. There are many of these, and they're called lantern sharks. My favorite lantern shark is the ninja lantern shark, and it's called that because my friend and colleague who discovered it around Thanksgiving, and she was home with her family, and everyone was talking about what's new at school, what's new at work. And she said, I discovered a new species of shark and I can name it whatever I want. And one of her young cousins runs into the room and says, ninjas are cool, call it the ninja shark. So she did. So sharks are absolutely amazing and we're learning new things about them all the time. Another thing that I have learned that I want everyone to know is that sharks are not a threat to you and your family. I assume that some of you went and saw Jaws on the big screen a couple weeks ago, re-released for its 50th anniversary. I first wrote a review of its legacy 10 years ago for its 40th anniversary. Jaws is an absolutely wonderful movie, but lots of people are terrified of sharks and they trace that to Jaws, which is weird because that is absolutely not how sharks behave. And they knew that at the time. It is a fictional movie. There is something in the public policy literature called the Jaws effect, which describes how fictional portrayals of real world issues affect how voters really think about that issue and what policy preferences they support. So every once in a while, someone is hurt by a shark. I don't want to minimize that. But when we're talking about policy responses, it's important to keep in mind the relative risk of things. And here are some things that are more dangerous than sharks. In a typical year in the United States, more people are killed by flower pots falling on their head from above when they walk down a city street than are killed by sharks. More people, as a social media guy, I love this one. More people fall off cliffs while trying to take a selfie of the scenery behind them than are killed by sharks. More people are bitten by other people in the New York City subway system each year than are bitten by sharks in the whole world. So when we're talking about the relative risk of this, it's very, very low. But at the same time, sharks are ecologically important animals. We are not only are sharks not bad, they are actively good. We want sharks in our oceans. They help keep the food chain healthy. And when we're talking about the ocean, the coastal and marine food webs support billions of food for billions with a B of humans, including many of the poorest humans on Earth, as well as fishing jobs for hundreds of millions of humans. We want healthy food chains, and that means protecting the top of the food chain. When you lose top predators, entire food webs, entire ecosystems can unravel. There is something in ecology called top-down control. What you're seeing here is a food web diagram of the Northwest Atlantic Ocean off Cape Cod area. And you see we have some fish in here, cod, tomcod, capelin, smelt. There's some invertebrates, there's some marine mammals, there's sharks in here. This is a very complicated web. These are species that eat each other or compete with each other for resources. And if you were to pull out a couple of those threads, things would probably be fine. But if you were to start pulling out a lot of those threads, the whole thing could unravel in very unpredictable ways, and that's what happens with sharks. So sharks are awesome. Sharks are not a threat to you, and sharks are actively important, and we should want them around. But at the same time, sharks are highly threatened. They are some of the most threatened vertebrate animals in the world, and the problem is so bad that this infographic that I helped the IUCN Red List make 10 years ago is already wrong. It's already out of date. It's already worse than this. This infographic says that about a quarter of all known species of sharks and their relatives are threatened with extinction. Now it's closer to a third. The number one threat by far, so much that there is not really a number two threat, is unsustainable fishing practices. I've also learned that all hope is not lost. We know what to do to help sharks and the rest of the ocean. Scientists and other experts have the answers. We know what works. We know what we need to make it work. We know when it can't possibly work. Scientists are not in charge, so we need your help. More on that later. But every one of the serious problems facing our ocean is solvable. That, of course, does not mean that our leaders will do the right thing. For example, in not far from where many of you are watching, the Pacific Islands Heritage Marine Reserve was one of the largest marine protected areas in the world until President Trump removed protections from it for no reason a few months ago. I wrote this article about that issue in The Conversation, which is and it got syndicated around the world if you want to learn more about that. Finally, it's important to know that lots of people want to help save sharks and are trying to help save sharks, but wanting to help and trying to help is not the same thing as actually helping. Lots of people do things that are not based on data and evidence, and in some cases are not based on reality. Scientists and conservation experts know what we need to do to help, and we do not need well-intentioned people to reinvent the wheel poorly on their own. There are lots of people who are well-intentioned but not especially well-informed, and they misunderstand and misstate key facts about the threats to sharks and the policy solutions to those threats. That's a problem. But there are also unscrupulous bad people who exploit this dynamic and say things like, you can't trust the mainstream conservation community, only trust me, give me your money, give me your support. That doesn't work. These people are scam artists, and they are not helping sharks, and they are stopping you from doing things that do help sharks. One example of things that are very, very, very frequently misstated is the word shark finning and the shark fin trade. This is something that a lot of people who are sort of casual ocean conservation enthusiasts are vaguely aware of, but lots of people don't know what it means. This shark finning is there are some young ears on the call, I believe, so I won't get too graphic here. But shark finning refers to removing the fins of a shark at sea and discarding the carcass at sea. If the body of the shark is brought to land, that shark has not been finned, regardless of what later happens to the shark fins. That is just what words mean. This photo was the most shared photo on Instagram in the ocean conservation space about 10 years ago, and it shows a bunch of dead sharks on land that were caught and killed by fishermen. Some of them in the background are having their fins removed, and it went viral with a caption about stopping shark finning. This is not shark finning. Stopping shark finning would not stop this. It is important that if you're going to get involved in conservation advocacy, you understand what words mean and you understand how data and evidence work. As another example of people who are potentially well-intentioned, but potentially not, trying to help, but unequivocally not helping. In the upper right there, you see a petition from change.org, which is linked with Facebook. Many of you have probably seen petitions like this. And this called for banning the practice of shark finning in the state of Florida. About one of these goes viral about every 6 months. This one got 60,000 people to sign it about 5 years ago. And not one of those 60,000 people was apparently aware that we banned shark finning in Florida in 1993. This is a petition that cannot possibly accomplish its stated goal because its stated goal was already accomplished before the person who made the petition was even born. All this does is confuse people about what the threats are and how to solve them, and make people think that they've done something to help when they have not. There's also a problem with a term that I'm trying to get into the peer-reviewed scientific literature, macho cowboy idiot scuba divers. Notably, this is a gender-neutral term. Many of the worst offenders are female, but these are people who, rather than following the first thing that you learn when you get scuba certified of look but don't touch, they grab sharks, they flip sharks over, they ride sharks, they hug sharks, they kiss sharks. And when they're criticized for this, they say, "Oh, I'm raising awareness." I don't know how the heck that raises awareness of anything, and it's certainly not science and not conservation. This is quite prevalent in the Bahamas, it's quite prevalent in Florida, and you do have it a major problem with it in some elements of Hawaii. Some of you may have seen this documentary, or sarcastic air quotes documentary earlier this summer. If you want to learn about why the expert shark science and conservation community thinks this is bad, I invite you to check out my blog post about it on our widely read science blog, Southern Fried Science. So, what can you do that does help? The number one thing, remember, the number one threat to sharks and their relatives is, which is also the number one threat to things like marine mammals, sea turtles, etc., is unsustainable fishing practices. So, the best thing that you as an individual can do is not support unsustainable seafood. Note that I did not say we all have to give up eating fish and become vegan. If you want to do that, you certainly can, but we're not at the point where the science says it's necessary. Uh, the topic of my second book is a guide to sustainable seafood. I just turned in the draft for it last week, so you should be able to buy it next year. But in the meantime, the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch app is a very good guide, and they do have a Hawaii-focused guide. A big thing you can do if you have spare change or spare time is to support reputable environmental nonprofits and not support the scam artists. If you don't know the difference, shoot me an email or a message on social media, and I'm happy to help. Voting for elected officials who support evidence-based conservation is great. Learning more and spreading the word, including following reputable experts on social media and not following scam artists and sharing their nonsense on social media, is a great way to help. So back to my book, Why Sharks Matter. And again, for those of you who joined later, if I were to do a talk like this in person, I would have copies of this book available for purchase and I would sign them for you. Since I'm doing this virtually, if you want to get a copy of my book from your favorite local bookstore and shoot me a message on social media that says you attended this talk virtually, I'm happy to send you a signed book plate that can go in the front. There are lots of books that are about sharks, but there's never been one like this one before. There are lots of books about sharks that are pretty pictures and fun facts about sharks. And on the last page, it says sharks are in trouble, don't eat shark fin soup. There are also academic texts about sharks, of which there are many, but there's never been anything that thoroughly explained the science and law of ocean conservation and a focus on sharks to the non-expert public. So I've been quite well pleased with the reception. It's been out for 3 years, and I'm still doing regular talks like this one. I have traveled all over the world giving talks about this. I actually gave one in Antarctica, so I have given an invited professional lecture on all 7 continents. But if anyone watching this call remotely represents another organization that might be interested in having me speak to you, either virtually or in person, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always happy to do this. I also am happy to Zoom into science classrooms. Never a charge for public schools for that. So before I wrap up here and take your questions, I have some people to thank, especially John and Sarah, for hosting me here tonight. I want to thank my family for always supporting my crazy career goals. When I was 5 years old, I told my dad, when I grow up, I want to be a marine biologist. And he said, I have no idea what that is, but I'll find out. And now he's retired and he comes on shark research expeditions with me and his golf buddies. I'd like to thank my publisher for giving me lots of freedom to write a different kind of shark book, and friends and colleagues for years of listening to my ideas for it and helping me make it better. And finally, I want to extend a deep and sincere thanks to you. If there was no one here to, no one who wanted to listen, I couldn't be traveling around the world talking about my favorite thing to talk about. Before I take your questions, and I'll remind you, I'm happy to answer any questions at all here. I just want to tell a quick funny story here. In 2019, I was a sponsor of the Sigma Xi conference, basically a national science fair. And I had this Ask Me Anything You Want About Sharks booth. And we opened it up to the public. So there were people coming in from town to ask questions about sharks. All these science fair kids were asking me questions about sharks. It was great. At one point, I get up to go to the bathroom, and I come back, and there's a 12-year-old boy sitting in that chair answering people's questions about sharks. And I watched him for a while, and he did pretty well. So I'm optimistic that if I keep doing this, I'll eventually find someone to take over and I can retire. But thank you very much for having me. I want to give you as much time as possible for questions here. I see that there are already some that are starting to come through, but thanks for having me and thanks for listening.
Thanks, Dr. Schiffman. We have, yep, just another one popped up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read these out. Um,
I can see them if that's
oh,
easier.
well, I'll just,
Oh, yeah.
if it's okay for me to read them for
Oh,
the,
sure.
well, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Um, so this is from Joe. Hi, David. Great to hear from you. This sounds like somebody who's followed you for a while.
Yes, hello.
So
I recognize a bunch of names on this call. Thanks for coming, nerds.
perfect. So this is Australia focused. They have occasional shark attacks, usually on surfers. And in response, governments in NSW and QLD have installed shark nets, which have little evidence of efficacy, but kills a lot of other marine animals more than sharks. Other than showing our politicians a copy of this webinar, do you have any tips for persuading politicians of the futility of deploying shark nets?
Yeah, so I have colleagues in Australia who, just a little bit of background on this for those of you not familiar with this particular system. A lot of people who go swimming at beaches in Australia know that the shark nets are there, but they believe that it's like a physical barrier to keep sharks out, like a fence. And it's not. What they do is they catch and kill large sharks that come by. But they also catch and kill anything else that comes by, including sea turtles, whales, things like that. It's a mess. It doesn't work. Big sharks can still get around them because they don't cover the whole coastline. And for a while, we were working on pulling these out, and it seems like the new New South Wales government is ignoring that and going back to putting them back in. There are some local groups that are working on this, and they know more about the local political conditions that I do. But it is indeed a big mess, and shark nets are bad, and we should not do them. Um, there was just I believe, one of my colleagues who is over there, Colin Simpfendorfer, who was at James Cook, just resigned from some sort of advisory committee to protest this. So scientists there are indeed speaking up.
Thank you. Okay. Another question we have is, are there any current proposed bills at Congress that could make an impact, good or bad, either way, for the future of sharks?
So there are actually three bills related to sharks being discussed at the federal level, which is like weirdly high. One of which just passed, and that was called Lulu's Law. And that was introduced by Senator Britt from Alabama. And it basically, when there's a shark bite anywhere in the world or anywhere in a region, it can trigger an emergency alert on your phone, just like if there's a severe weather alert. It just gives local officials access to that. Uh, I don't know anyone who thinks that's a good idea. There's really no reason why believing that, given that sharks bite about 60 people a year in the whole world, there's really no reason to believe that a shark just bit someone 20 miles from you. Therefore, it's more likely that they'll bite you. But it's making people feel better. There is also something called the Shark Act, supporting the health of aquatic resources with knowledge and education. Fun fact, that is the first congressional acronym that was made with ChatGPT. But that is to make an advisory panel to deal with some ongoing shark conservation issues, especially around the Gulf and East Coast. And the other one is the Florida Safe Seas Act, which would regulate scuba diver behavior in federal waters off Florida and would basically ban baited shark dives. I have an article coming out about that in Scuba Diving Magazine soon.
Perfect. Thank you. How can people recognize if seafood comes from a sustainable practice?
Yeah,
Also,
the
we
best
did
bet
drop
there is the Seafood
the app.
Watch. Yeah.
We did drop
Uh,
the app in the chat, folks.
yes, Seafood Watch is a wonderful tool for that. You can download the national guide, the Hawaii specific guide, or they have a sushi one. They It takes all the common seafood available in your area and sorts it into three lists. Green, which is you can eat this guilt-free. Our scientists have determined that it's environmentally sustainable. Yellow, which is every once in a while you can have some, and red, which is maybe have the chicken. This is trouble.
It's good. It's an easy way to understand it. Thank you. Another question. Why do some sharks glow in the dark? Is it some sort of defense mechanism?
Yes, so it is a defense mechanism. It actually helps with camouflage. If you are below something and looking up at the sky, you see little bits of light coming through. This is actually the same reason that sharks like the great white are dark on top and light on their bellies. And lots of other sharks have that too. It's called counter shading. Uh, how that works is it helps them blend in with their surroundings. If you're above a great white shark looking down, it's dark and it blends in with the seafloor. If you're below it and looking up, it's light and it blends in with the sky. So the glow in the dark is similar.
Gotcha. Okay. What are your thoughts on sharks in captivity at aquariums?
I'm a big supporter of aquariums, but there are some aquariums that are great, and those tend to be certified by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, AZA. There's also a European equivalent of that. And there are some aquariums that for do not have good practices for how they take care of their animals.
Mm,
So usually it's not hard to tell the difference. When I used to live, I got my PhD at the University of Miami in South Florida, and that's where Miami Seaquarium is based. And that is where if any of you are animal welfare people, you may have heard of Lolita, the world's loneliest orca, lived 40 years in a very small tank. That was right there. And we had to park there. That was the student parking lot. So that was a very sad and bad aquarium. There are very good aquariums.
thanks. Okay. How to change the mentality of people who have seen Jaws as little kids, and they're afraid to thinking better about sharks. I guess the question is how do you have any tips on like how can we start to shift that perspective and maybe dispel a little bit of that fear?
Yeah, so the short answer is you for the most part, you probably don't need to. This is one of the issues with these macho cowboy idiot scuba divers is they say I'm helping conservation by showing that sharks aren't scary. You're only showing that to paying customers who already wanted to go out on the boat with you. And that's not the biggest threat to sharks is not that people think they're scary. The biggest threat is unsustainable overfishing. If everyone started eating more sustainable seafood, then sharks would be saved, even if lots of people were still scared of them. But the answer is, if there's someone in your life who says things that are incorrect about environmental topics, talk to them. Just have a conversation with them. Listen to their fears. Try to understand. Communicate.
Yeah. And what is your best advice for young students wanting to get into shark research besides stealing your chair at
Oh yeah, I mean that was great. That kid had a business card and I took it. Uh, so. It depends how young we're talking about here, but if you are a university student, if you're planning on being a shark scientist, which I should be clear is not the only job related to marine biology. My third book is a career advice guide about all about marine biology. But if you want to be a scientist, a researcher, then you are almost certainly going to need advanced graduate school. So a master's, if not a PhD. So your goal in choosing a university and choosing a college is one that will prepare you for that. So a rigorous, broad-based science education and some research opportunities. Then at that point, there's more that you can do. Depending on how old you are, whoever this is about, we are also attending scientific conferences is a really, really great way to learn more about this. And the American Elasmobranch Society is the world's oldest and largest shark science professional society. Our meeting next year is in New Orleans. I'm on the board of directors. Next year is also a Sharks International year. Every 4 years, all the societies get together. Next year in May, it's in Sri Lanka. So that could be a really cool way to learn about all the shark research happening in the world at once.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Okay. Speaking of around the world, this person's from the UK. I found my love and passion for sharks after swimming with them in Florida. The problem is, I found my passion. I understand conservation, but how can I extend that by living all the way in while they live in the UK, basically?
Sorry, I'm trying to find this question. Yes. How can you so the UK has plenty of ocean conservation issues and plenty of coastline. You have lots of endangered species there. There are lots of threats to them. There are groups that you can do to help right in your own backyard. Oceania UK is a great one. The Marine Conservation Society of the UK is a great one. The Marine Biological Association of the UK is a great one. Yeah, you don't have to travel halfway around the world. You need to find a coastline in need of protection.
Thank you. And I know that was a lot, so if the question portion is being recorded too, so if you need to come back and write down all the cool answers that Dr. Shipman's giving you, you'll have that opportunity as well. Um, Another question, I love that you're interdisciplinary. I'd love to hear how you have balanced marine research with human dimensions. We need more behavior change and policy change for conservation. What programs exist that you'd recommend for other scientists to get involved in that also enjoy bridging these types of gaps?
So a lot of natural scientists, which are uh, the people who study the fish and not the human side, are trying more and more to get involved in the human dimensions work, which is great, except they're not first learning how to do it. If you were a geneticist and you suddenly wanted to get into studying quantum mechanics, you would first take some classes and talk to some people and learn the methods and work with someone who knows it. But that's not what people are doing. People are just sort of saying, "Oh, I know you're interviewing people. I know how to talk to people. I'll do it." And then the work is bad. So I would encourage any scientists who are interested in learning human dimensions to do it the right way, to take formal coursework with it, to collaborate with your friendly neighborhood social scientist or interdisciplinary environmental scientist. We are often delighted to help. And there are a variety of training programs. My PhD program was interdisciplinary. That was the Abbess Center for Interdisciplinary Environmental Science and Policy at the University of Miami. But there are lots of similar programs around the world.
And we have some similar question. I'm going to
Okay.
try to put them together. One of them is, what are your thoughts on shark tourism where feeders don't flip sharks like you but had mentioned, but simply chum the waters and feed them for scuba divers to dive with them? And that's similar to is there a way to see sharks in the wildlife without being a threat to them? How can we know if a
Yeah.
diver is friendly toward marine life?
Yeah. So generally speaking, I don't love baited shark dives. I don't. I have about 800 dives all over the world, and I tried that once, and I did not like it. It's the difference between going to the zoo and seeing animals there versus going on safari and seeing a lion stalking zebras in the wild. I'd rather go diving and see sharks than go shark diving. There are actually a lot of studies that show that the baiting behavior can cause stress and harm and injury to the animals. It can be done in ways that are sustainable, but it often is not. And that's I'm going to be talking a lot more about that in this article coming out probably next week in Scuba Diving Magazine about the Florida Safe Seas Act that would ban this practice.
Thank you. How do you feel about shark organizations that require you to pay to intern or volunteer there?
Yeah, these are exploitative and bad. This is the most prestigious shark research internship in the world will cost you $4,000 a month so you can volunteer there. That is not how we broaden the field. That is not how we make science more inclusive and welcoming to all. There's lots of people who can't afford that, and they don't have this leg up that the other people get. This is a big problem. So, oh, I will also note related to this that if any, an organization that I work with called Field School in Miami has this wonderful program where we take low-income public school groups out for a day of shark research free of charge. We even pay for the bus and their lunches. And how we pay for that is fundraiser charter trips. So if anyone on this call wants to come on a day of shark research and know that what you're doing is covering the cost of us bringing a future group of low-income students, shoot me a message. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. This person just got back from a dive trip to Fiji and participated in 6 shark feeding dives with scores of bull and nurse sharks. Are these dives, I guess this is kind of already
Yeah,
similar.
similar
Yeah,
question. And the
they're
short answer
problematic. Yeah,
is there are some baited shark dives that are not that big of a deal, but there are a lot that do cause a lot of harm. And right now, the industry is really refusing to self-regulate in a lot of ways, and they're objecting to any concerns and saying people are just jealous, and it's not good, and it's leading to things like Congress stepping in and saying you can't do this at all anymore.
yeah,
So I'm skeptical of this stuff. It can be done in ways that are not harmful to the sharks, but it often isn't, and it can be hard to tell.
got you. Let's see. Are there any plans to regulate interaction with whale sharks around Florida that you can share?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any. Other than they have some general protections that a lot of animals do, but they get hit by boats a lot. It's a big problem from people trying to get close to them.
Um, what is a healthy way to address, oh, sorry, regarding Shark Week I'm assuming that's the Discovery Channel, guys. Regarding Shark Week programming, what's a healthy way to address it when friends and family ask about it, or how can we discern what's entertainment versus shock value versus pseudoscience and what's useful? Your
Yeah.
friend Ryan.
Yes,
You
great
know
question
Ryan.
from Ryan. Here I do. So Shark Week is the longest running cable news series in the world. It's in its 37th year, I think, and it is a dumpster fire of lies and pseudoscience. And you can reason at this point, your safe bet is it's not real. To give you one example from this past year, they had a show called Dancing with the Sharks. It had Tom Bergeron from Dancing with the Stars. They had a bunch of like D-minus list celebrities that would grab sharks and throw them, and Tom Bergeron rated their dance moves. You know, science.
Oh no.
There was also a show this past year called Florida's Death Beach. You would think that Florida's Death Beach, airing on Shark Week, would be a beach in which at least one person ever in the history of the world had died, but it's not. There are people who have required band-aids there, but that's it. Just truly outrageous behavior, and it is the biggest stage in marine biology, and it's a big problem.
How this is I think this is great. I would like to know, how do you behave in the water if you are close to a shark, or if you know a shark comes by you? Uh I mean, this was in particular of diving or tourism, but just, I mean, I think that'd be helpful just in general. Like, what are the ways to stay safe and for both us and for the sharks?
If if you've been in the ocean for any significant amount of time, there was a shark not that far from you. It knew you were there, and you probably had no idea it was there. So you don't really have to do that much. If you are ever in any sort of wilderness situation and you see something, an animal behaving a way that looks a little squirrely and it's making you uncomfortable, just get out of the water, go back in an hour, and it's fine. There's lots of advice about what to do if a shark is biting you or whatever. You don't have to do anything because that's not going to happen. If a shark is, if you've ever seen a cat that's annoyed with you, where they sort of arch their back and shoulders. Sharks do that, and if you see that, just back away, and it's fine. And they don't want to fight you; they just want you to not be bothering them.
What does the future of sharks around the world look like with global warming?
That's a great question, and the short answer is that climate change is a huge threat to the ocean in general, but it's not that big of a threat to sharks. It is the number one threat, again, is unsustainable overfishing practices by far. So
Hmm.
much so that if we totally fix overfishing and we don't fix climate change, sharks are fine. And if we totally fix climate change and don't fix overfishing, sharks are going to go be going extinct.
Wow.
It is a big problem and we should work to fix it, but most sharks can simply move to a new habitat that now better suits their needs.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that's true of large animals in general.
Okay. Several questions, kind of the same flavor. I know that you mentioned field school or that you
Mhm.
work with that organization. Do you have any recommendations for, more inexpensive or free even volunteer internships or volunteer or internship opportunities with sharks?
There are a lot of them all over the world. It sort of depends on where you are. If you're interested in doing this sort of at a very professional level, then there's an organization called the Schmidt, SCHMIDT, Marine Jobs Board, and they have thousands of jobs in ocean science, but they also have volunteer opportunities with conservation organizations. There's also Facebook groups like the Marine Biology Career Network, which I know that some people on the call are here because they saw me advertise this there. There are lots of ways to get involved, sometimes virtually, sometimes in person, and yeah, we could really use your help.
Is there significant progress within the US practicing sustainable fishing, or has it slowed with the new current administration?
So the U.S., generally speaking, does a very good job with sustainable fisheries management, evidence-based, data-driven, participatory, sustainable fisheries management. We have relatively few fish populations that are overfished. We've rebuilt a lot of the ones that are. We have strong laws about endangered species. But the new administration is no friend of science or regulations, and it's a bloodbath. We have no idea where things are going. It's not pretty right now. Right now, we don't even know if NOAA is going to exist next year. There are active discussions about funding it, which were paused over the summer so that Speaker of the House Johnson could get out of a vote on releasing the Epstein files. So it's been the way my undergrads are phrasing this is the vibes are in shambles. That's I like that phrasing.
The vibes. Um, Another person who it seems has followed you for quite some time. How would you, I guess this is kind of, you've already shared how you feel, your views on like Shark Week. What about, National Geographic as a counterpart to that?
Yes, National Geographic is much better than Shark Week. The BBC also much better. The BBC has a special called Sharks, which was done by their same team that did Blue Planet and Planet Earth. Absolutely stunning. The first time I watched it, I think I stood up and screamed 5 times. My dog came to make sure I was okay, but I was just blown away by the footage and what they were showing.
That's amazing. Another general kind of getting into the field question, what skills, this is somebody who just graduated, what kind of skills should they be wanting to develop, or what skills are generally looked for somebody in this field?
So, an exercise that I do with my students that anyone on this call who is interested in maybe being a marine biologist in the future, even if you're still in school for several years, should do is look at what jobs are posted now. Even if you're not applying for jobs now, even if you have 3 more years of school before you're applying, look at what jobs exist now and write down what degrees they require and what skills they require and think, am I on the path to getting this job? Or if I continue on my current path, am I going to graduate and not be eligible for any job? There are so many different kinds of jobs that require so many different kinds of skills, but you're definitely going to need to be good at reading, good at writing, good at time management, good at math. Uh, so there, a lot of jobs are not what people think marine biology is. It's not that much of sitting on the beach and then going scuba diving. It's a lot of office work, it's a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of writing, but you should look at the jobs that exist now and what skills they require.
Quick question about the Mid-Atlantic and Chesapeake Bay area. Do you have any recommendations on groups that are worth getting involved in, or are having a really great impact in that region?
The Chesapeake Bay Alliance is great, and the Chesapeake Bay Foundation is part of them. That the Alliance is a group of a bunch of different local nonprofits, but there's a lot of good stuff happening in this area for sure.
This is a follow-up to, I think, the climate question that we had asked. Since we're
Mhm.
kind of seeing some migration of several pelagic species further north and south to cope with the temperatures, what happens when there's n no more room to move north or south? Will sharks and other ocean inhabitants have sufficient time to adapt to changes?
Yes, yeah, we're simply not worried about this for sharks. There are lots of we are worried about climate change for many reasons. Sharks are fine. We are worried about sharks for very, very different reasons.
Got it. Do you have any insight on the Mexican government banning shark tourism off of Guadalupe Island? Um,
Yes.
and are you concerned that poachers may move into the area now that tourism boats aren't there to deter that illegal fishing?
So Guadalupe Island was a place where you could go cage diving with great white sharks. And for years, some of the scuba operators were told, you're not following the rules. If you don't follow the rules, we're going to have to shut it down. They didn't follow the rules and it got shut down. Am I worried about poachers? no, the scuba divers weren't the ones deterring poachers. That is a line that the unscrupulous scuba divers used to say, well, you should let us do whatever we want, but it's not based on the ground reality.
Let's see. I'm not really sure what this one means, but are sharks sensitive to magnetism?
Yes.
I have no idea what that means, so
Yeah, so
I'd like to
sharks
be
have a whole
educated.
extra, yeah, sharks have a whole extra sense that we don't have at all. I don't just mean they can smell better than we can, though they can. I don't just mean they can see better than we can, though they can. They have a whole way of perceiving the world that we don't have at all. They can sense electromagnetic fields. And open ocean sharks use that to navigate with the Earth's magnetic field. And species like hammerheads use it to find prey that are buried under sand or mud. We can't see it, we can't hear it, we can't smell it, but they know it's there because they can sense the electricity given off by its beating heart, which I think is pretty cool.
Crazy. Oh, okay. Glad I asked that question.
Yeah.
Um, this person, another thing I didn't realize, I see a lot of beauty products that have squalene.
Yes.
How can I be sure that the source isn't from sharks if there's no cruelty-free or animal safe label?
Yes. So cruelty-free and animal safe don't mean what people think they do. Squalene is shark liver oil. It is used in a variety of pharmaceuticals and beauty products, but you can also get plant derived, and it will just straight up say plant derived squalene on it, and it works exactly the same.
Perfect. Do you think that if people were less afraid of sharks, governments would protect them more?
No,
No.
this is again something that a lot of folks in the scuba industry say that obviously the reason sharks are threatened is because people are afraid of them, and by me riding sharks and kissing sharks on the face, I'm saving them. No, it's not so.
Do you have any thoughts on shark trophy tournaments and how detrimental they are to shark populations?
Generally speaking, these tournaments in which you're trying to catch the biggest shark possible or the most sharks possible, it depends on the species. There are absolutely shark species that can be caught sustainably. I see there's another question about that with bull sharks in here. But there are some shark species who are endangered and should not be caught. And a reputable tournament will not give out prizes for catching an endangered species that it's illegal to catch. These are not very common anymore. They get a lot of attention on environmental social media, and I would be not sad if they went away, but they are not that big a deal at a population scale.
Going kind of back to the magnetism question, are products like shark bands effective?
Um, no. The most charitable thing I can say about shark repellents is that some of them work sometimes under certain conditions. A kid was bitten while wearing a shark bands, so
Oh.
I'm not impressed.
With the advancement of AI, do you think future shark scientists and PhDs in the field will need more advanced machine learning skills than a biologist currently working in the field has?
Uh, no. There's all these AI tech bro people are trying to overhype everything. AI is going to take over every job. What I've seen so far. Again, I'm not impressed. AI gives you wrong answers. It hallucinates things. It says things that are not true. It makes up sources. When you ask it questions, it says things that are wrong. So please do not use AI. It also has an enormous cost in terms of water and energy. There might be a time in the future when this is really helpful for sort of large data set pattern recognition. That's really the only thing it would be helpful for. And then I did a study that used some of that, and I just collaborated with a colleague who was a computer scientist, and I didn't need to know how it worked at all.
Do you have any new favorite shark research articles that maybe you've read recently or would recommend?
Oh, there's so many things all the time. There's probably 20 new peer-reviewed scientific journal articles about sharks every week somewhere in the world. If you follow me on social media, I share my favorite ones every day. I am on Blue Sky, on Instagram, and on Facebook at Why Sharks Matter. There's a lot of cool stuff happening all the time.
Similar question to which I think you've already answered a little bit, but this person is a recent graduate, marine biology, working at their local aquarium in the housekeeping area and just feels a little frustrated on making progress towards actually, I guess, working in this subject. Do you have any words of encouragement for this person? I know you've shared a little bit about, skill
Yeah,
building, but
yeah. So It's rough out there right now, especially with disastrous budget cuts to groups like NOAA. You're now competing for entry-level jobs with people who have a PhD and 10 years experience. So you're not crazy that it's harder than it should be. You're probably not doing anything wrong. But take a look at the job ads that are out there. Keep checking. You're setting yourself up for success more by doing a good and thorough and well done application to a few jobs rather than doing a bad application to every job, because the people who are reviewing these job ads are getting hundreds of applications. And if yours is bad, they're not going to read it. It's not going to make it into the short list.
Are there any falsely accredited sustainable seafood providers? It sounds like this could maybe have come from a popular
Yeah, you're talking about Seaspiracy, which is another dumpster fire
documentary.
of lies and nonsense. It is not, that movie is not true. The information in it is not correct. There are certainly, the greenwashing, which is claiming that something is environmentally friendly when it isn't, is absolutely a real problem. But the groups that that movie attacks are insane to attack. They're world leaders that are universally respected, and the group was trying to sell plant-based vegan stuff. So they're just not the message cannot be no one's doing this right. You all need to give up fish entirely, because if everyone who cares about the ocean stops eating fish, then the only people left eating fish are people who don't care about the ocean, and that's not good for anyone.
Are you participating in any international project to protect sharks? Are there methods that make countries participating in this topic? I'm not quite sure what the rest of that question is,
Yeah, I see the
but
question. Yeah,
yeah,
I work with colleagues all over the world, absolutely.
awesome. Thank you. How would you address the situation when people or fishermen think that all sharks are bad and think they could be driven to extinction or by people who just don't care?
Yeah, again, we don't necessarily need everyone on our side. We need a majority of decision makers on our side. And if we can do that, we don't need to waste our time talking to crazy people who are trolls on the internet.
Would you say why would you say that sharks do sometimes, and when they say attack, I'm assuming they mean attack humans.
Yeah. So there are anyone who tells you they know exactly why a wild animal does or doesn't do anything is not someone who you should trust. But a leading theory is mistaken identity. That sharks do not eat humans ever. They bite humans very, very rarely, and then immediately go, "Bleh, what was that?" So they thought we were food, they realize we're not, and they go away. And you can still have a very bad day if that happens, depending on where they bite you or how big it is.
Um,
Think that the remaining two questions probably you might want to skip here.
I have one last question though, and I
Yes,
think I
please.
accidentally closed it, which was, can you
Oh,
share your favorite memory of, gosh, I'm sorry. I think I accidentally like marked it as answered, but somebody was asking you to share your favorite memory of interacting or studying sharks, and I thought that I wanted to save that. That was going to be like my closing question to you.
yeah. So there's so many, and there's new ones all the time. And even though I'm a policy nerd in DC, I still have a lot of fieldwork time down in Florida, where I'm out on the boat in field school. And the most recent trip I was on, I'm going back out on a week from Saturday, but the most recent trip I was on in May, it was the most sharks we'd ever caught in a day. And it was so many sharks that we couldn't work all of them up while we were catching more. So I, as the person with the longest arm span, had to stand holding two lines as far apart as I could, keeping sharks that in the water and away from each other. That was just awesome. But every time there's a new amazing adventure, I love these trips with Field School. If anyone's interested in setting up a fundraiser trip for your group, why sharks matter at Gmail.
Thank you so much. That was a lot. That was actually probably the most questions we've ever had. So thank you so much for hanging in there, Dr. Schiffman. We're just at about an hour. So thank you everyone for joining us. Again, if you'd like to reach Dr. Schiffman, please feel free to reach out to him. And this recording will be available on our YouTube in a few days, or you can just sign up for our newsletter to get it that way. But other than that, thank you guys so much. Please take care. Take care, Dr. Schiffman. Have a wonderful
Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
We'll see you all the next time. Aloha.